All right, we are back with a very special episode. We only do these quarterly. This is the quarterly Crowbar Award celebration episode for the Blue Crowbar winner, which is an applause. We'll have Aiden put in a round of applause sound effects for this. Actually, we might go video on. Is everybody cool with video if we post this to YouTube? Everybody looks good in my eyes.
Post it. Post. I guess.
Awesome.
I guess so. Thanks, Joe.
Good looking group here. And we're here to celebrate Phil Serzo, who is our winner for this quarter. Gerry Graf is the guest judge. Gerry Graf, you're the co-founder and CCO of Slap Global. Business Insider named you the most creative man in advertising.
Not bad.
Not bad. What's your next achievement you wanna hit?
My next achievement, I've got an anniversary coming up. It would be nice to be still married. That would be fun.
Is that harder to achieve than being the most creative man in advertising?
Those kind of accolades, I don't know. I don't know how you get those. It's just a popularity contest, and I must have done some piece of work at the time, and people have just chucked my name out, and trying to identify people who will someday vote for these things and being nice to them. That works too. Staying married is a lot trickier. But
gotcha. Well, we're here to talk about Phil's work, the winning campaign Best in Show. High level, we do the Crowbar Awards. It's for people that are trying to break into advertising full time, 3 years or less agency experience. And Phil, we'll let you talk about your background. We had to do a little check-in, I know, but you are in that demographic. You do not have a full-time agency job of 3 years or less. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're still qualified here. I know
it's on the record now.
It's on the record.
On the record.
And it's a new creative challenge, new creative brief, new guest judge. The guest judge looks through all the submissions and picks and ranks out the top 4. Blue being best in show, gold, silver, bronze. So you will get a Blue Crowbar mailed to you, Phil, that Cooper should have. Did you get that?
I got him. I got him.
Good.
Yeah. I'm going to hang in my apartment in New York. There's a ton of room on the wall.
You should break into an agency with it physically.
Yeah. If people are in office still,
I get it now.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good
right.
metaphor. I like it.
Is it like a real crowbar? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're heavy.
Yeah.
So now I'll hand it over to Cooper and Gerry. Cooper, you want to tell us about the brief and how the process worked with Gerry this time around? I forget, it was a couple months ago, but what was the brand? What were we asking people to solve here?
Yeah. So for our first quarter's brief this year, we chose to go with Athletic Brewing, which is a super interesting brand. If you haven't heard of it, they're making beer that actually tastes like beer and is good, but doesn't have any alcohol in it. And for as long as I knew what advertising was, when I first learned about it in school, it was on a low ABV gin product. I won't name the product, but it was pretty terrible. Didn't taste like gin. Didn't seem anything like it. But that wasn't what really threw me off. What threw me off was that there is this movement of people in the world that's getting larger and larger and larger with each year, who are changing their relationship with alcohol and looking for ways to incorporate it in more meaningful ways, using products like Athletic Brewing to still have the opportunity to go out or be themselves without having a drink if they don't want it. And the concept of it not being about, abstinence or kicking booze out of your life, but just being more mindful about it and finding new ways to bring, half sobriety into your life in different ways or what works best for you, I always thought was super interesting. So we built the brief. and we chatted with Gerry about it, and he got his flavor in there to make it super interesting. To give us what I think is our best showing of work from students and those who are 3 years or less in an agency. That made it super exciting, and from there, I'll kick it over to you, Phil, to talk a little bit about what you came up with, and then we'll let Gerry tear it apart.
Jared, did you like the
We're
did
here
you like
too,
the
right?
brief? Was the brief something you would have worked on or wanted to work on?
Yeah, I like the brief, and I always work with my planners and my strategists on the brief. Not that I'm as good at strategy as a lot of the talented people I've worked with, and as good as Cooper, but I like a creative input into a brief, where you can craft it where, if it's presented the right way, if you get to the right area, a creative person's mind starts buzzing. You might not have ideas yet, but you're like, oh, I want to jump in there. And I've worked at places that just has the best strategy ever. It could be Silverstein, Chiat, and a brief for a creative person. I always look at it as it's an arrow that points in a direction where there's probably an idea. It's never like an X marks the spot, do this. It's never that, It's just like it's telling your mind, go look over there. And that's where Cooper ended up. So it was really good.
Love it. And Phil, you are the winner here. Tell us about how you found this and what you thought of the brief. Did you jump into it right away? Did you love it? Walk us through your process here.
Well, I'll tell you how I found it. I've taken one advertising class, a night class at SVA, with a guy named Neil Rolfin. That's how you say his name.
I know Neil.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh.
I think.
Yeah, he was the teacher, and he posted. We obviously connected on LinkedIn after, and he posted this, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like this was, I like really, I mean, obviously like beer advertising is very famous in the United States and anywhere really. And I was like, I mean, not getting too deep into it, but I was really like, I needed to like go all in, and I really wanted to do a campaign for my portfolio that was like really like a really big idea. And I was like, I think I put a lot into this. I can do it for this. So that's kind of how I found it. Yeah.
And you're alone. You're the only one that did this.
Yeah.
You can have groups of 3 total.
Yeah.
At the most, and you're a solo winner here. So
well, I mean, I don't know, like most people, I would say the one advantage of going to ad school maybe is that you're going to find people that are very serious about doing advertising. And if you're not in ad school, it's actually pretty hard to find people that are like really want to put in like the work, because most people have jobs, and like it's hard to find people that are serious about because you have to put in a lot of work. And it's just hard to find people. And I just didn't, for this, I was like, I just need to do this myself.
I didn't go to ad school.
I know. Yeah.
I took night classes.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It was hard to find an art director. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And for this, I was like, basically the experiences that I had, and I'm just like, this is my experience, but like, I just have worked with people on other stuff, and like, I have to wait for them. And I don't know. I was just like, nah, this was just like, I was going all in. So I just needed to do it by myself.
So what's your anticipated route to break into? What role do you want?
I'm going to be a copywriter for sure. But like
the craft is good on this. I mean, in my eyes.
I mean, it's like,
pretty good.
That's the job. Yeah. I think, I'm an editor. So like, I know how to use, I've been an editor prior to this, and I know how to use like Adobe products. So that's enough.
It was presentable.
It was presentable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I saw the brief, I loved it. I drink athletic sometimes. I mean, I also drink beer, but I drink athletic sometimes. And so it was just like a perfect kind of like, I was like, this is the one, I just needed to go all in.
Got it. So your process then after that, you see the brief, you love it. Then how'd you tackle it? What was going in your mind? You wanted to do this solo. What were the next steps for your campaign that you created? And then what was the campaign?
Yeah. Well, so my process was basically from like mid-April till middle of May. I would say every night I just started writing stuff. And I guess like background, I've been like kind of like training myself for like the past year. And I kind of felt like I was finally getting to a point where I could do something good. And so I have like the methods and stuff that I've come up with by myself with some mentors that I've reached out to in the industry that have helped me come up with stuff like just like techniques and stuff, I guess you could call them. Yeah, I mean, the campaign I landed on is this line. It's all summed up in this line, the beer that saved beer. And the way I got there was the two things that I really focused on with the brief was the desired behavior, which I think was something along, change the perception of athletic for being only for people, not for being for only people practicing sobriety to people unlocking a newer version of themselves. And I felt like that's the thing. I feel like with this, I was like, I needed to hone in. And that was like the thing. I was like, this is not just the beer for sober people. And so I think from there, that was like, when I was like searching and doing research, that's what I was like, the idea that I come up with has to focus on that. And the beer that saves beer was like the idea of like, I want this beer to be cool for people still that drink beer, you know? So that's kind of that's what I was really focusing on, I guess.
Got it. Did you test it with friends? Did you,
Yeah.
you get some of that research done?
No, yeah, for sure. I obviously hang out with people that drink beer, and it's funny. I think like when you come up with a good campaign line and you start saying it to people, it's kind of like trying to tell a story to people where like, they're like, oh, and you can just see it in their face when it kind of like makes sense to them. And they don't even have to be in advertising really. Like you can tell if people connect with it on an emotional level. And when I came up with that line, like the beer that saved beer, it made me laugh a little bit. And it was also like, I think at least at the point that I'm at in my training, like when you come up with an idea, it's like, oh, it's just like so many other ideas start coming from that, you know? And I was like, the beer that saved beer. What ended up happening is that like a bunch of the lines that are even in my deck that I wrote were from other campaigns, but I was just like, oh, I can fit this in the beer that saved beer, you know? And it was just a big idea. I felt like that I could fit so many things into, and that people were like, oh, that's funny. That makes sense. The beer that saved.
So we will have, by the time this is launched, the final deck will be on our website so people can look at it live. But high level, you started off with a stunt. Do you want to talk about the stunt and then some of the out of home, just kind of high level, those touch points? You don't have to read every headline, maybe a couple of your favorite ones, and then the final stunt as well.
Well, I was nervous when I submitted, to be honest, because I was like, you know, I don't know, I kind of guess went off brief a little bit because you guys said do traditional and digital, but I don't know. I was like, I don't know what that really means. I don't know. I was like, you could make my first stunt. So my first stunt was basically to make a non-alcoholic beer country album, and Luke Bryan would be the guy who writes it. And like, I don't know, I just like that. I mean, it took a while to get to that. Like at first I was like, I want to do something with a country star because beer's big in country. And I was just trying, like, the big thing for me for that idea was like, the idea had to be good enough that it doesn't matter if Luke Bryan's doing it. You know, it's like a non-alcoholic beer country album is the idea. And that was like, I was like, yes. And then let's go from there. And so that was kind of the idea of like how we would launch the campaign. But what was I going to say?
And then it got into out of home.
Oh yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, so for me, like when I come up with how I write these campaigns, like most of the things that I come up with are based on just like writing lines. Like my last stunt, which I could say, came from just writing a headline. I was like, just like because you're just like trying to come up with insights and like writing lines, and like the good ideas kind of come from those. But my favorite line out of all of these, because I feel like I mean, I don't know, like I wrote a ton, and some of these I just picked the ones that I thought were hitting different points, but non-alcoholic beer for people you'd want to have a beer with. Like, I don't know. I just was like, it's just a good, simple line. I really liked it. I really tried to hammer home. Where is it? Where is it? The liquid courage line. Where is it? Oh, sometimes liquid courage has nothing to do with the liquid. I was trying to that I was trying to write more like that, you know, but where I was more talking to like the people that are just like cool when they're sober, you know, but you could still beer. But those were my two favorite. I really like the Abraham Lincoln one because it's true. Abraham Lincoln only drank at White House functions so that people didn't think he was boring. We're sorry, Abe, the beer that saved beer. And then I decided to end the campaign so that the campaign starts with making a non-alcoholic beer country album. And then it's like, you know, a bunch of out-of-home lines. And then it's the last stunt is that Athletic Brew covers legal fees of streakers whose blood alcohol content level is below the legal limit. Which I don't know. That's just like, I love that. That which made me laugh came to me. But yeah,
Cool.
so I don't know, pretty simple. I guess like the campaign, like it has those two really hero ideas and mixed in with just like a bunch of out of home lines, really all nested under this beer that saved beer, which you could just do. I feel like you could just do stuff, you know, all day with that campaign idea, which was my goal when I approached the brief.
Good. Well, I'm glad I walked it up to this point where we got to a little bit about the process and the results and what you came up with. Gerry was the one that combed through a lot of submissions and picked this Invest in show. So Gerry, I'll hand it off to you. Pick apart this campaign, do whatever you want to do here, but any feedback would be interesting because we're all learning. Everybody's learning from your feedback, not just Phil, all of our listeners, and Cooper and myself too.
All right. Just before I get to the campaign, I would just say that I had to figure out how to judge these submissions, because if you think of people coming in to show their creative director, no one ever comes in with the idea. There's something, there's a piece of something, and it's like you showed me 10 things and there were these 2 things and we're gonna just like start talking about that. It's just an ongoing conversation. So I didn't really expect to like anybody to come in and go and submit a campaign, and no one really did. But what I was looking for was the jump from strategy to creative execution first. And you know, I mean, a lot of the submissions, but you know, a lot of people who work for me, they'll come in and just kind of reiterate the strategy, and it's like, yeah, that you haven't jumped into the idea world yet. So with Phil's campaign, I like the line, the beer that saved beer, but I don't know that is the through thread. It's a good line, it's well written, but I don't know if that's the through thread. What I really gravitated for, and really the only executions I saw in everything that were like, oh, I'd like to do that, you know, was the country album and the streaker. Because I think the top 4 were all kind of massaged the strategy into a place where you don't need actual alcohol to have a good time. You know, in one way or another, the ones that I like, all 4 of them are in that kind of world. And then what Phil did was take that and made the creative leap. So you don't necessarily need alcohol to have an awesome time. You know, I just read the line, a country album, you know, written and recorded with non-alcoholic beer. And I'm just like, but that country album is going to be a batshit crazy country as any other country album, you know? That's what I loved about it. And then he really kind of confirmed that with the streaker thing, you know? If you think about it, like people, you know, drink alcohol or they don't drink alcohol because they don't want to go crazy. But when you're intoxicated and you're streaking, you know, down the middle of the street, that's not crazy. That's drunk. If you're stone sober and you're streaking down the street, that is beautifully crazy, you know? And I think that should be applauded, you know? there are a lot of, you had a lot of headlines, well-written headlines, I would say, for the out-of-home stuff. Funny, the two that you mentioned were the two that stuck out to me. Especially, liquid courage, doesn't necessarily mean you need the liquid. So, because a lot of people, went the no hangover route, you'll always make your 9 a.m. job thingy and stuff like that. And there's no reason to, you can't sell a product saying you're not going to get sick, you know, you know,
Yeah.
the reason people put up with the hangovers on Friday because they went too hard on Thursday is because, alcohol and beer gives you something else. You like that craziness. And I liked just like I said, the massaging of the strategy and the executions into this place that Athletic is going to basically represent. Go out, we're kind of for people who don't need any help. There was a lot in the strategy about your true self and stuff like that, So you're streaking with the blood alcohol of next to nothing. That's your true self,
Yeah.
and the other thing but the beer, just because you're drinking, you cracking a can and drinking beer and it tastes just like good beer and stuff like that. That might be like just the motivation you need to do wonderfully crazy stuff and stuff like that. I saw a lot of campaigns that just went into the taste and the flavor and stuff like that, and it's like it's just all facts and there's no idea in there. I love the idea that this beer represents all those beautiful crazy people who kind of just like have a blast and they don't need the alcohol. And to me, that was the way to connect. This is real beer, except we don't have alcohol. So I don't know. That was my thought process. And like I said, I'll repeat it. A few people got to that area strategically or in their kind of like preamble to the work, but the creative lead came from Phil's idea of the country album, and for me the streaker. It was wonderful. I loved the idea that Athletic could represent not drunk crazy but real crazy. True self for people. It's kind of like it's like sometimes you do advertising, you just talk about the type of people you want to associate with, and I've never seen anybody want to associate themselves with streakers who don't need intoxication to run on a field. It's great. It was great. And anyways, if we were working on this, we would just kind of like strip it down. You don't need most of those out of home things. I don't even know if the out of home things are ads. They're areas we would go in and we would kind of like, how can you execute this? Where can you execute this and stuff? But it's the one creative execution that just got, I felt that buzz. Oh, we could do something. A lot of people got close, but Phil got there, made my head buzz.
Phil, what are you thinking? I mean, I one thing that I'm taking away from this is the people that do submit, that it's a constant reminder that we need to keep updating our work. It's not done just because you submitted. And I hope people aren't submitting and just putting in their websites and they're done. So what are your next steps? I think, like, what questions do you have? What are you thinking? How you can improve this?
Well, I mean, I think, I just think there's more. I think that there's just like more idea. I mean, there was like tons of ideas that I had, like about beer league, and there was ideas about like how you get a little more drunk at like the airport, supposedly, at altitude. Like, I mean, there was tons of other execution ideas, and it's good to hear like that. That's kind of where I was drifting, and these were the ones that I just thought like made the most sense quickly,
How can we, if you wanted to pursue that out of home route, like Gerry, Phil, like, how can we better some of those out of home options if we wanted to land those? What would be the next steps to make a more cohesive campaign? Did I cut out?
Just a little bit, but I heard the question.
Sure, man.
I would you could make you could make the streaker add a visual element of it, add the streaker in there, and somehow communicate that he has a blood alcohol of 0.00000001. He's not drunk. He's just nuts. Athletic. And there's a lot of stuff there, visually that you can have fun with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to hear. Like sometimes I hear people say like sometimes the idea is like in the strategy, but I find it is pretty hard to go from like that leap from strategy to idea is actually it's such like a tricky little.
The idea is not in the strategy. The strategy leads you to the idea. So keep that in mind.
It usually should. Yeah. If the idea is in the strategy, it means it creative didn't break the strategy or the strategist went too far. They made the space to play in too small.
Exactly. So, yeah, remember, I mean, Gino, I asked you at the beginning of this, I'm like, can I creative direct this? Can I send people comments and stuff? And you're like, no, it's best. And you were right, to just see what comes in, so many of my favorite ideas, the ones I'm most known for throughout all the years, I'm just thinking of so many times, especially with junior people. They'll come in and just show or cover my walls with, 20, a campaign idea with 20 kind of like executions and stuff like that. And just looking at it, and there's a paragraph on one page, and going, this is your idea. That's the idea. All right. So throw all that away, and that's the idea right there, and there were a number of executions. I think they made the top 4, but there were some other ones where some people did have it, but Phil, like I've said a couple of times, made a jump into creative executions where I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And from my mind, again, it was the country album and the stunt that really did that, and the Liquid Courage line. That would be the area that I would be pressing on. Which isn't. That's why I said that it's a well-written line, the beer that saved beer, but that's not necessarily where the excitement part in your executions came from.
Right. Do you think it's important, I guess, when you're building, I don't know, I guess it doesn't, when you have to have, like, it doesn't matter to have that that thread. Do you see that thread though still? The thread that holds it all together of the beer that saved beer? Like how important is that in a portfolio where you see like, oh, there's the setup, like there's the line, and then here's how he just like blows it out kind of.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of ideas just have a natural thread.
Right.
I look at taglines, as kind of like a period at the end of the statement. It finishes the thought. It's not the thought.
Right.
My favorite tagline I've ever written was for Red Stripe Beer. It was "Hooray Beer," and the whole campaign was these guys down in Jamaica. They knew they were making crappy beer, but they were just happy that they made beer. And then so we just ended it, "Hooray Beer." So like I said, the tagline can be the thread, or the idea can just be the thread.
Yeah.
And I think I think I saw a slightly different idea in your executions, or a different way to phrase it, put it that way, So this campaign really won based on, the jump into creative executions that got me excited. They're not necessarily the country album and the streaker aren't necessarily the beer that saved beer.
Right.
It's not completely off.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
I thought it was timely with the streaker because you do have the Euro championships happening for soccer, and there's a streaker like every other game. And when I was reading through it, I was like, oh, I wonder how drunk or not drunk that guy was.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how, like I said, those ideas came just from writing lines, it wasn't like sitting there. They just kind of came and
Yeah.
I think I write a line about a streaker first. I have to look. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I do it. Especially when I started, I would just fill notebooks with lines or headlines or even just sentences or, what if it's, how cool is how crazy or how cool is a streaker who doesn't need alcohol? And then I'm like, oh, what else don't need, what else can you do that is just as cool, but don't need alcohol,
Right.
You
Right.
know, some badass country album,
Yeah.
Has your process changed since then, Gerry? You're still filling up notebooks?
I, no, I still, I don't concept as much as I did when, in like, the first 10 years of my career, but, starting Slap Global, 3 years ago, we were 4 people. So I had to, and it's the same, I do write headlines, but it's like stream of consciousness, just filling up anything that is connected to the brand and connected to the brief we're trying to work on. I just write and write and write. I learned, early on when you get into a flow in writing, shit comes out of your pen that you weren't even thinking. You're like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah. Do you get that with on a computer too when you're typing, or is it just do you have to have the
Sometimes.
pen?
Yeah. I have, Google Docs all over the place. It's better with the pen, but I do it too with typing. Yeah.
Phil, any other questions for our friend Gerry now?
I mean, to the campaign, not totally. I think it's good to, it landed the way I was hoping those would land, those 2 ideas. So
Yeah.
Well, the beauty of
Yeah.
this is hopefully you can stay connected and work on it with Gerry, and workshop it some more. So that's
Yeah.
nice.
We are going to stay connected. Starting an award show, and Phil asked Phil to be a judge.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What's the concept for it?
The concept is, when I was just starting out, I remembered seeing the little penny Nike ads, and they were insane and they were awesome. And I remember going to work at BBDO and talking to my boss, the executive creative director. I'm like, did you see the little penny stuff? He's like, yeah, what the hell was that? He's like, what is Nike selling puppets now? And he just didn't get it whatsoever, and he was one of the judges in all the award shows and stuff. So I started thinking about award shows and who judges them. I judge them, it's the same kind of crew and one show, D&AD and stuff like that. And very talented people who have a track record of making good work. And that's great and everything. But I wanted an award show with just kind of the fresh, younger look, younger eyes, and what gets them excited. So, I kind of, motivated maybe from you guys, a group of judges with less than 5 years in the industry. I'm not saying the work that they're going to choose is better than what is winning a can, but I know it's going to be different. I just wanted a different perspective. I'm acting more as a curator. I said that I'm not going to judge because I don't care what I think. I care what younger people think. So
I love it.
yeah. So it's gonna be called Astroland, named after the old section of Coney Island. And it's just we'll see what happens.
Well, let's talk more about that. Maybe we would love to collaborate and help promote that with breaking and entering.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I'm just motivated by a lot of stuff, motivated by, like I said, it's the same crew of like 20 people you see at every show at I did AICP, I've done Canada, I've done DNAD, and again, very, very talented people, but kind of removed from the business.
Yeah.
And, I look at Can and, I'm one of those annoying assholes. Okay. I don't give a fuck about Can, but hey, I won 5 this year, you know, but, just
Congrats.
if Can is the Oscars, I wanted to know what Sundance was, I wanted to know what a different perspective was, not a better perspective, a different perspective. Sundance is independent. We're not Hollywood, So how could we create something that was like a different perspective and also, in the past couple of years, every person who's grown up in the past, I don't know, 20 years, they have every creative tool you need to create. You know what I mean? Phil didn't need to go find an art director, right? He could take an Adobe tutorial and figure out how to do it. So I think there's just a new generation of creative thinkers who just don't think like everybody else, and then there are just, platform after platform, TikTok's what, 4 years old, maybe 5 years old, there's just all these new playgrounds where people are creating. And I think the brains of this new generation of creative thinkers are different than, all of us who, we've all moved on from traditional stuff, but it's just, we all think a similar way. So it's nice to get a young perspective.
And you asked Phil to be on this inaugural jury.
I've been thinking about this for about 5 years. And then, you asked me to do this. I love, regardless of the award show, I love spending time with young creators. They're just like idea machines. They're just throwing stuff out. They don't know what the hell's going on. It's just, what about this? What about this? What about a country album? What about it? What about an Abe Lincoln? No, that sucks. Don't do that. Okay. What about a streaker? Yeah, do that. I love being around. So, I when I volunteered to do this with you guys, and it's been fantastic. I'm like, oh, the winner I'm gonna ask to be on this jury. Everybody else does have jobs in other places and stuff like that, except for Phil.
I might be the first. I got on a jury before I got a job.
Yeah,
so that's pretty. I mean, it's not
No.
like bar right there.
There you go. Put it on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad that connection was made.
Yeah.
And Phil, did you have any other questions about, I mean, it seems like you guys will be communicating, but for Gerry in general, networking or breaking into advertising, creative questions that you want to ask? This is your time now.
Man. I mean, I listened. It's funny because before this, I listened to Gerry's interview, which I recommend anybody listen to, with Dave Dye. It's a really, and you talk a lot about how you broke in, and I guess I'm doing it similarly. I guess, I don't really, I guess I have really been really focused about reaching out because I'm not going to ad school, obviously. So I've been really focused on just finding people, creatives in the industry whose work I really respect. And then it's just been a constant process, I'm really excited to show people. I haven't showed anyone this work besides you guys. So I'll definitely be sending this work out on my portfolio. But that's that's like all I do is just like reach out to people whose work I like, try to do work, just keep doing work, I don't know.
Yeah. So, it needs a little more craft, tighten it up. I think basically like where you ended up that I liked was the kick-ass version of Here's to the Crazy Ones.
Yeah.
Instead of Martha Graham, it's the streaker.
I never really. Yeah. Funny way to think about it. I'll have to maybe look at that.
I love it.
But yeah.
Well, Phil, congrats. Blue Crowbar is coming your way soon.
I'm pumped.
Thank you for submitting the great work. Gerry, thank you for judging this quarter. Cooper, thank you for writing the brief and managing this and being our Crowbar lead here. Great work to all of us, and congrats again to Phil.
Yeah, guys. Thank you guys. You guys, for anybody, looking out there, this is a really good one. I've looked at other like competitions, and you guys have it's very clear. Like, it's a good briefs. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you think the 3 months is a good amount of time? 'Cause
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
seen I've seen like 1 month programs, 1 week ones,
I mean, it's
year long ones.
it's like a curse almost, because like it's almost so long, like I'm never going to get a month and a half probably when I get a job to work on, an idea. But I don't know, it's good. Yeah, it's, if you guys, I don't know, yeah, 3 months, sure. Hopefully you use that full 3 months to come up, because I tell you, I use that full 3 months, so
That's good to hear. That's a good reminder.
3 months was good. Maybe 2, but 3 was good.
Yeah.
Like that. So I just want to say, Cooper, thanks for the great strategy.
Yeah.
Gino, thank you very much for asking me to do this. I had a wonderful, wonderful time. And Phil, congratulations, and we'll be talking soon about
Thank you.
Astroland.
yeah, definitely. And I'm excited to see the other people too. That'll be fun to see the other place.
All the other candidates. Yep.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks
All
all. Take care.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.